Hey y'all, it is a heckin' technically Wednesday. It is 1:37 a.m. on a Wednesday, but it might as well be Tuesday because I haven't slept yet. So, happy Tuesday. I am going to review this book, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, because I just finished reading it at 1:37 a.m. Because, look, I'm going on a trip to Las Vegas, technically today. And I need to wake up at 8 a.m. for it. So I was like, I'll go to bed at midnight. I'll just read this until then. And then I kept reading it because, oh my gosh, the plot was so good. But that's the only thing I like about this book, the plot. Now I'm going to get into the rest of my opinions on this book. Overall, I think I give it a 5 out of 10. And, okay, so when I started reading this, and it was a pretty fast read. I started reading it 3 nights ago. I was like, I don't like it. And the reasons are the style. I don't like the style. Hank Green's not a writer, which that's not his fault, I guess. I mean, that's fine. Not everybody's a writer, but he was writing it and I'm sure it was thoroughly edited and everything, but the style, even so, felt like stream of consciousness, like he's just writing the way that he would talk, which for talking is good, for videos is good, for even tweets and stuff is good, but for a book, I don't think it fits, at least not in my mind. It was very distracting. And I don't know, and I guess I'm not an expert writer. And also to be clear, this video, no spoilers. I'm not a writer, but it felt like the characters were all sort of the same. Like, not exactly the same, but they were sort of the same. So I'm like, okay. But the plot was good, and that was the only reason I kept reading it. I was like a few chapters in and I'm like, but the plot, okay, I want to know what happens. That's the only reason I'm going to keep reading. And I debated like just looking up a Wikipedia page for the book because, you know, they have plot synopsis and then just seeing what happens. But like, I'm like, I already have the book. It's a pretty fast read. I'll keep reading it. So I read it. Another thing I don't like about the book is it's very like time sensitive. It's not very timeless. There's so many references to like stuff that's happening right now, like Twitter, for example. That's just one thing. I don't remember all the things, but it was very now. Oh, talking about like Facebook live stream, talking about all these like moderny internety things, like being an internet celebrity. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if my kids wouldn't understand half of what's happening in this book because it's just outdated. So that's, I mean, since I am reading it in the relevant time period, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, I guess, but it was sort of distracting to me because I'm like, wow, all these things in a book. I don't know, I'm not used to that, but also, like, people reading it in the future are not going to enjoy it very much, so that's sort of bad. And then also, I didn't appreciate the political references because, like, that was also sort of distracting, regardless of whether I agree with those political opinions. I'm not a fan of like if I'm reading a book about politics, that's a completely different story, but this is not a book about politics. This is just some science fiction novel. So I'm like, okay, but that was my like least complaint about it, but that was just another thing I was thinking about. Most of it is just the fact that the stream of consciousness-y style, which was really distracting at first. Like, honestly, you know, usually you like when you're reading a really good book, you get really into it and like the whole world fades from you and you're in this book. And that didn't happen for me until like 3/4 of the way through it, when I felt like I was really in the world. I was like, wow. Or maybe halfway, I don't know. And that might have just been because I got used to it. So that's, you know, not great. I would usually prefer to have that sort of experience from just a few chapters in. But, oh yeah, and then just the modernness of it. And then also, remember how I said the plot was really good? Well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm really unsatisfied with the ending. That's all I'm gonna say. Super unsatisfying. And you know that feeling where you're like near the end of a book and you're like, wait, from the plot stuff that's happening right now, this book feels like it should have a lot more pages in it. Well, I had that experience, and then I was like, wait, this ended even more abruptly than I thought it would, because, like, the last few pages, which I assumed were more pages of the novel, were actually just pages, like, acknowledgements and stuff like that. So I'm like, this ended the worst way possible. I was very unsatisfied, and that's why I'm making this video. 5 out of 10, my dude. Good plot, bad writing. Sorry? I'd love to hear anybody else's opinions if you have read this book, or if you plan to read this book. Next, I should probably read CI's book. I haven't got my hands on it yet, but I should order it. Read it. Because I'm very simultaneously proud and disappointed to say that this is the first book I have read for pleasure in like a year. So, actually probably more than a year, let's be honest. I tried reading Turtles All the Way Down, which that's probably going to be my actual next read because I don't have CI's book yet. And I stopped reading it after a few chapters. I was like, I feel like I'm forcing myself to read this. But now I have the whole summer. I have 4 months of summer. Yay, quarter systems. So I'll be reading more. So that's cool, I guess. But I hope the rest of the books I read don't get 5s out of 10. So yes, Lacey, I will see you tomorrow.